Right now on Denver 7 News at 4, the firefight continues in Teller County, where over 100 people are evacuated from their homes.
I could see the flames, which are just across the road.
When we'll see some relief from the fire threat and the new tool that will help combat future flames.
To some who are dealing with soaring housing prices, rent control may sound like a good idea, why experts say it may not be the answer and what may be a better solution. And we're breaking down the money that black farmers lost and losing their land from unfair policies and sales, how they're working to recover from an issue that has created generational problems.
Well, hopefully people will understand that sometimes bad things happen to good people, and that's what this case is.
Plus, we hear from Jeudy's lawyer one day after his arrest, a recap of his first day in the courtroom. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Jason Grenauer. First at 4, fire crews in Teller County are working to put out the High Park fire near Cripple Creek. Over 600 acres are now burning with 0% containment. Now, no structures are threatened right now, but just over 100 residents have been evacuated from their homes. Devin Stone tells us they had to move a little over 30 horses off of their property to make sure they were safe.
It's really scary. We still have we've put a lot of work into the property that we got down there. It's been a wonderful area for us and me to build up my business, so it's really scary and really sad.
Now, Cripple Creek High School has become the evacuation site for residents. Large and small animals have been moved to the Cripple Creek Fairgrounds. And a woman was found dead in the fire that burned several homes at the Skylark Mobile Home Park in El Paso County. Officials have not identified that victim. The cause of that fire is under investigation. Let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Mike Nelson now. Mike, the fire danger is very high across the entire Front Range because it's so dry and so warm. Any signs of relief in sight?
There's a little bit of rain in the 7-day forecast, but you have to wait a couple of days for that. Right now, the temperatures are really delightful in the mid-70s in the Denver area, the same at Colorado Springs. Winds have been gusty, as we've seen most days, but they're not nearly as severe as they've been in some recent days, such as a week ago today. So they're a little gusty, and with that, we still do have the fire weather warning. It continues until 9 o'clock tonight. I think conditions will improve quickly after sunset. There's no precipitation nearby. I do have a little bit looking ahead in the extended forecast. And here's the smoke forecast. Actually, the big plumes of smoke from the fires down in New Mexico are going to push to the south of us, so our air quality should be fairly decent. But looking ahead, a warm weekend, and then there is some rain in the forecast by Monday and Tuesday. I'll have your full 7-day forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, Mike, thank you. Fire season is really all year long now here in Colorado. This past year was a stark example of why the state needs to be prepared for the next big fire, really at all costs. So just this week, this multifaceted firefighting powerhouse finally made it to Colorado. The $24 million chopper known as the Firehawk is Colorado's first. It's capable of carrying 1,000 gallons of water at a time while transporting up to 12 firefighters to any fire emergency.
So this helicopter is absolutely needed, as we've seen with the Boulder fire and things here recently, right? This helicopter could have been airborne and been an initial attack straight away, quickly. Whereas, your normal aircraft, they have to fill up the tank, they have to take off from an airport. This can be, a helicopter can be up in the air in a matter of moments once it's filled with firefighters and water.
The mission for now is to finish constructing the Firehawk as fast as possible. The job is expected to be complete by the end of the year. It'll then be transferred over to the State Department of Public Safety. From there, fire crews will start training in that aircraft before it's put into use. That could come midway through next year. Broncos wide receiver Jeudy made his first court appearance this morning after he was arrested for criminal tampering, among other things. Denver 7's Veronica Acosta was in the courtroom this morning, watched Jeudy walk out of court, and has the latest.
Not only did Jeudy's attorney, Harvey Steinberg, think he did nothing worthy of spending last night in jail, but neither did the victim in this case. That is the mother of Jeudy's child. She was also present in court this morning addressing the judge. She said, quote, "I did want to dismiss the case. I just wanted them to monitor the situation. He was not a threat. I didn't feel threatened." Listen to what Jeudy's attorney had to say after the hearing.
I don't believe a crime has been committed. I don't believe my client did anything that would rise to the level of a crime, and having someone spend the night in jail because we have this, quote, moniker of domestic violence, unquote, that is too broad, applies without any kind of discreetness, which should have been applied here.
Jeudy sat in the courtroom dressed in orange alongside his lawyer. He asked the court to acknowledge there was no attempt at physical violence found, which she did. The judge wanted to impose a no contact order between Jeudy and the mother of his child, but she didn't want that. Jeudy's lawyer also asked Jeudy be allowed full travel, explaining he has commitments out of state. That was granted. He said the question for Jeudy now is, how do I get my reputation back?
I think people are going to look at this and come to the same conclusion that I did and say, boy, this is a bump in the road. This is a really, really good guy, and we're sorry this had to happen to him.
The judge did set a $1,500 recognizance bond. So basically what that means is Jeudy didn't actually have to pay any of that money, just sign off and then promise to be back for his next court date. And that is set for May 31st. In Arapahoe County, I'm Veronica Acosta, Denver 7.
Veronica, thank you. COVID cases are rising once again in our state, though state officials say it is a slow rise. The State Department of Health says there is the potential for 500 people to be hospitalized with COVID by middle of next month. Now, Denver, Boulder, and Mineral counties are now in the yellow level on the CDC's COVID-19 data tracker. The CDC says in that level, those at high risk of infection should wear a mask in public settings. At last check, 1,879 new cases have been reported across the state.
This Sunday, the topic of sermons in many black churches will be about menthol cigarettes. No Menthol Sunday is taking on new significance this year. Public comment is now open on a proposed rule from the FDA to ban menthol as a flavor in cigarettes.
Black churches and black populations, of course, we know have been targeted so long by the tobacco industry. And so if they are targeting these individuals that are going to these churches, then they are a perfect vehicle for fighting back, for standing up and saying, no, we don't want this in our communities.
Government data shows that African American adults have the highest percentage of menthol cigarette use compared to other racial and ethnic groups. Menthol makes it easier to inhale cigarette smoke. Tobacco use is the #1 cause of preventable death among black Americans. 45,000 black Americans die each year from it.
My mother was a menthol smoker for 30 plus years. My mother, as a matter of fact, she smoked Virginia Slim menthol. If they did not have Virginia Slim menthol, she went to Cool's menthol filter. And my mother started having poor circulation. And it was the results of smoking. And the doctor told her, you either stop smoking or you lose your leg. And she stopped cold turkey.
Wow. Yeah, that is Pastor Victor Davis, who plans to share that personal experience when he addresses his congregation on Sunday. He says a member of his church who grew up in a house with a heavy smoker and has never smoked in their life now has stage 3 cancer. Government data shows that black Americans are more likely to be exposed to secondhand smoke than any other racial or ethnic group.
I preach a holistic gospel of mind, body, and soul. I believe that faith affects everything that we do. So I must be concerned not only about one's spiritual walk, but also their physical walk. You can't walk a healthy spiritual life if your physical life is not intact.
When you're quitting as part of a group, now you've got that encouragement, you've got that support from other folks doing it. So when it's happening from a church, and then when it's happening from multiple churches across the country, it becomes a powerful vehicle.
Churches in at least 28 states have participated in No Menthol Sunday in past years. The Center for Black Health and Equity is hoping that more people will be encouraged to sign onto the proposed menthol ban from the FDA. The nonprofit is anticipating the tobacco industry suing the FDA. It's also continuing to push for bans on the local level. Now, developing a chronic disease can obviously change your life, but getting a diagnosis isn't always easy.
Everybody that saw me that hadn't seen me for a while, I guess I looked so different. They're like, oh my gosh, are you on drugs? What's wrong?
What helped her through the mental health struggles that coincided with her chronic disease and how she hopes that it can help others.
Also coming up, a lack of computer chips has created supply issues throughout most of this pandemic. But could lawmakers be on the verge of a major funding breakthrough to make more of these? We go in depth next.